Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted. No, it's not Monday. You thought I was going to say Monday, which I probably did about 3 cuts ago, but it's Tuesday. And this is Anglican Unscripted 294. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. Today's May 30, 2017.
George and I need to be upfront with you. This is not the first time we tried to record this episode. We tried last week. We went through Anglican Ink and looked at all the articles, and we said, oh, there's so much to talk about. Push the record button and let's go. Well, last Friday was Rabbit Trail Day, too, because George and I could not put together a cohesive, coherent, understandable show. So, like, after 45 minutes of trying, we just gave up and we went about our Memorial Day weekend. Thank God that we understood that we weren't doing a good job, and it was time to give you guys a break and give ourselves a break. It's now Tuesday. We've had a 3-day break, and the first thing we talk about on the show is weather. And, George, I think I have SAD. Do you know what SAD is?
Strategic air... No, I don't know what SAD is. Still.
Seasonal something. Seasonal
affective disorder.
Right, because there's no sun here in Connecticut anymore. We are basically doing a November in Ireland. It's every 9 out of 10 days. It's cloudy. I'm looking at a skylight that is absolutely useless because something happened. I don't know if Al Gore is trying to get back at me, but this spring has been absolutely horrible here in the Northeast. All clouds all the time. When the sun appears, it goes away so quick before you can get your Speedo on and run to the beach. It is what it is. How's the weather down there, George?
Very sunny, very dry, very warm. It was in the 90s over the Memorial Day weekend, but it's the wet season hasn't started. Kevin, if you're in Florida in July, what happens at 3 o'clock?
It rains.
That is true for maybe 4 months of the year. At 3 o'clock every day it rains. Here,
sure.
We're in that dry season just before the rainy season moves in.
If your Apple Watch stops working, you know that you can tell the time by the time it rains in Florida.
It was so hot. It was so hot yesterday, and then I left my iPhone. Let's not plug any one American company, especially as they don't advertise. I left my iPhone in the car during church, and I came out, started up. I checked my messages, and it said, the phone was too hot. It wouldn't work because of the temperature.
Turned off. Shame on you for leaving it in a 120-degree car. That was... You're so
the dog was fine. Why? I mean, the dog was okay. I would have thought the phone would be at least better than the dog.
No, your family has abandoned you.
Yes, they're on the island of Kauai in Hawaii. They call that the Garden Island. They yesterday they went into Waimea Canyon and hiked to see all these mountain waterfalls and orchids and all beautiful pictures on the internet. They're having a wonderful time.
With your credit card, I assume.
Well, they're blowing through money faster. Well, they're in college, so they're used to blowing through money. But and my wife too. Thank goodness they're having a sort of an eco-tourism week because, I mean, if they were still in Waikiki, I'd be putting the house up for sale right now.
That's amazing.
They're having a great deal of fun. I do remind my wife saying, well, in case of North Korean nuclear strikes, do you have an evacuation plan?
That's right. That right over there.
Just when she gets a little too happy clapping about how beautiful Hawaii.
Well, she's over there sipping some pineapple drinks. So, yeah, it's great. Yeah, Hawaii is a wonderful place to vacation. I'm fond of Singapore, probably just as humid, but good times. Now, I'm actually taking a 2.5-week vacation this summer to go to 2 family reunions. The Carlson family reunion is going to be in Minnesota, in Jasper, oh boy, and the Farron, which is my wife's family, are having theirs on the east coast of Wisconsin. George, what's on the east coast of Wisconsin?
The coasts in Wisconsin? I didn't know.
The beautiful beaches of Lake Michigan. That's right, in Door County. So I will be flying into Wisconsin, driving my family around to 2 reunions.
Is that where like Green Bay
Me,
and stuff is?
yeah, that's up by Green Bay here, and then the Carlsons were farmers from the southwest side of Minnesota by Pipestone, Jasper area.
So
If you
that's
know
why
where the
your
South
wife is a
Dakota
Green
border
Bay
is, what's
Packers
that?
fan. That's why she's a
Yeah,
Packers fan.
she's a
So
Packer
it's
fan.
genetic. She's got to because she's.
Yeah, it's genetic, and the thing is, and I'm going back in history. You remember the Packers won like the first two or three Super Bowls.
Uh
Well,
huh.
every Packer team after that had to live in that shadow, and so when they started winning again in the '80s, they just all of Wisconsin started wearing their Packer jerseys again, and the Badgers started won a couple uh, Rose Bowls. So when we went to school at the University of Wisconsin, nobody supported the Packers. Nobody supported the Badgers, but they started winning again, and now everybody has a red or, as you said, green and yellow jersey. Oh boy, I have to dig mine out of the closet somewhere. And that's
Oh.
my summer. Why did it take so long for this episode to come out, George? We started recording this last Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the problem
And
was
it
we had
just
too many
didn't work.
stories.
It just
Yeah, it
didn't
didn't
work.
work.
We You may think that we'll just put anything out, like Kevin and George reading the phone book. No, we actually
We
try to
have
have a,
standards.
and we decided that this week would be the character assassination show, where we would say mean things that just skirt the line of slander, but we couldn't get our head around the issues, so
No.
we put it off a few days.
Okay, so this week we're going to talk about a talk. I'm not going to say it's a sermon that you posted on Friday on Anglican Unscripted, and we'll talk about Canada, maybe a little Michael Curry spiced in for fun. Let me pull up the sermon you posted or talk you posted on Anglican Inc. It was by Archbishop Makoba.
Tabo Makoba of Cape Town.
Okay, good. And he's over there in Germany with Angela Merkel and other dignitaries to celebrate the 500th anniversary of Martin Luther and the celebration of the Reformation. Yay, we all support the Reformation. And I love reading books about Martin Luther and all that happened at that time. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to read a talk about it. And he starts off his talk in the most suspicious way. He says, "Here in front of me, I see the true spirit of tolerance amplified by the understanding of the benefits of a multicultural society. Thank you for your witness to the world. Thank you." Okay, I've been. My ancestry is from northern Germany. It's not the multicultural mecca of the world, George.
Well, it is now. Um,
It is
now,
now.
need to put this a little bit of context.
Uh-huh.
This is the celebration the German Protestant churches are doing to celebrate Martin Luther's anniversary of. Uh, Thabo Makova was in Wittenberg, Germany, and the other special guest besides Thabo Makova was Barack Obama. Two great Lutherans, Barack Obama and Thabo Makova. So first off, you need to think, okay, this is not really going to be a religious celebration. So who is seated directly in front of and around Thabo Makova as he gives this speech? Barack Obama and Angela Merkel. Angela Merkel's the German chancellor. They say Angela, we say Angela. So
That's all
uh,
right. Yeah.
now, what is Angela Merkel famous for? For bringing in 3 million Syrians and Afghans and basically playing demographic suicide with Germany. So that there are parts of Germany that German women can now no longer walk down the streets because they will be assaulted for having their heads uncovered. Germany is basically going, I believe Germany's going to see a civil war if things don't calm down. And Thabo Makova is basically saying to Angela Merkel, what you have done is blessed by God by bringing in what the Germans call cultural enrichers, people from non Western countries uh, who don't work. These refugees cannot work in German industry because they don't have the technical skills. They don't have the education, and there are only so many street sweeping jobs. So these people are basically unemployed, living in barracks, wandering the streets. And this is a mark of virtue and pride for Merkel. And what does Thabo Makgoba do to mark the Reformation? He basically applauds Merkel and Barack Obama for their multicultural uh, death of the West politics. It's
Well, yeah.
it's
I
it
mean,
if but the thing is, this isn't out of character for Makoba. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
well, no. I mean, this is Makoba 101. He did not rise to the top of the Anglican Church hierarchy by being a theologian. Am I correct
No,
in that?
he's a sociologist.
Okay.
He has a higher education in that area. Makoba rose to the top of the Anglican Church of Southern Africa because he's intelligent, good-looking, articulate. He is the sort of black African that white liberals look at and swoon over. He's
Hmm.
non-threatening. And he was appointed an assistant bishop and then became Archbishop of Cape Town. And he basically continues in the politician vein of African bishops. He's not a particularly Christian individual. I don't mean that he's an atheist or anything like that, nor do I mean he's a Catherine Jefferts Schori Looney Tune. Rather, he's not known for his spiritual power. Now,
Hmm.
what is he known for? This is the fellow who put together, that was on the head of the Lambeth Conference design team of 2008, who came up with the Indaba process. This is the guy who started it. He's been asked to do it again by Justin Welby in 2020 for the next Lambeth Conference. This is somebody under whose tenure the Anglican Church of South Africa has, they've got a really bad corruption problem. Do you remember the story I did about the Diocese of Umzimvubu, where they had a bishop who was stealing, and they sent in accountants to check the books at the cathedral, and wouldn't you know it,
Poof.
the cathedral burned down the night before they arrived.
You
You've
need
got two or,
sprinklers, you know.
you got two or three bishops who are deep in corruption. Makoba doesn't do anything about it. He puts it out to committees. You've got people like Gavin Mitchell. I hope I didn't mangle his last name. Conservative evangelical clergy who are kicked out without trial from their church. And they appeal and go through the system. Makoba doesn't do anything. You've got portion of the South African church is doing a very hard job trying to drive all the whites out of the church. Imagine Black Lives Now Matter running your local church. Would you show up? Well, a certain type of white liberal would, but the rank and file Anglicans who are not black are fleeing the church in droves. So it's becoming more segregated. It's becoming more politically correct. It's becoming more closely tied to political leaders in the secular world. Um, it's just a mess. And of course, this is the man that Justin Welby appoints to help us get through the problems within Anglicanism. We all need to just sit down and talk.
Let's transition. You did not get a chance last week to talk about Manchester. Gavin and I did a quick episode talking about terrorism, talking about the problem within Islam, not Islam itself. And he said some pretty strong stuff that got some good responses. And I was waiting for the Archbishop to give his response. And I don't know if you know this, but Manchester is mourning by getting bee tattoos. Did you see that story?
No.
And I'm like, well, this is a great opportunity for somebody within the church to stand up and give the Christian message. Somebody within leadership to say, we need to stand against the wicked, stand against the evil, and offer the world and offer these vacant places the message of Jesus Christ. And I was just waiting and waiting and waiting. And as an Anglican, I waited too long, George, because I became really disappointed in the words that were tweeted out by Justin Welby.
Well, Welby was in Germany, I think, at the time, and he had a tweet out where it began "Heroic Manchester," and essentially he celebrated adversity and defeat, but the British will still hang on. And the Bishop of Manchester had a little tweet where love will conquer hate, but nobody talked about what the hate was. I mean, it was it was as if this was a natural disaster. This was a
It's like a
tsunami.
hurricane came ashore in Manchester and people died. Get over it.
Now, now there was one Anglican leader, the Queen, who named this as wickedness.
Hmm.
But apart from Welby and Company, you wouldn't get any sense that people actually did something. Let's just compare it to we had the Coptic massacre, I think, on Friday
Yeah.
this past week. And the
Thank God that
Archbishop,
they got that in before Ramadan.
yeah, before
If
the
you're going
sun
to do your
went,
terrorism, you gotta time it perfectly, and boom, you knocked off 25 Christians before Ramadan.
Welby released a statement about the Coptic massacre, as did the Archbishop of the Middle East, Sahel Douani in Jerusalem. Welby's was anodyne sympathy. Sahel Douani's talked about the problem of, militant Islam. And Douani's the one that lives in the East Jerusalem, who's surrounded by Muslims who could get killed tomorrow. Not Welby, who's in London in a palace guarded by security. Yet Welby's the one that sounds like it was written by somebody in fear of their life, rather than who's willing to speak the truth. I mean, maybe it's British culture, but if you look at the British press, the theme is that we're not going to let this divide us. And what does that mean? We're not going to let this uh, hurt our relations with good Muslims
Or affect
um,
us.
or affect us.
Hmm.
When the reality is, friends, if you're a Christian leader, you need to talk about Jesus Christ. You don't need to put out this politically correct twaddle.
No,
But hey,
yeah,
maybe we have
there's
different
no.
understandings of
Well, no,
Christian.
I mean, there's no greater time in the face of absolute evil to offer the solution, to offer the alternative, to speak the God. I can't think of a better time. It's not appropriate, Kevin. That would be offensive. Really? The gospel wasn't offensive in the first century? George, I'm getting more and more angry. Let's wrap up our time here. I'm Kevin Carlson.
I'm George Conger, and you've been watching episode 294 of Anglican Unscripted.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted, the Monday morning edition, episode 294. Yeah, what you doing?
It's Tuesday. Monday was Memorial Day.
Yeah, great. Okay.